Great night.
Okay, here's a question for you. In the last hour, have you or someone you know or love looked at social media? If yes, how many times in the last hour? And please be honest. And did you look at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, another social media platform? And can you go 1 week without looking at social media? Or how about 1 full day? Why am I grilling you about social media and your use? It has to do with the verdict just delivered by a jury in California. We're going to tell you all about it coming up. Meanwhile, it has been 39 days that our men and women of TSA have gone without pay. Our government has skipped paying them, but do they get to skip paying rent or skip making their car payments? You know those answers. When and what is Congress going to do about this? In just a moment, I'll speak with House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Also ahead, Republicans say it is worse than Watergate. Chairman Jim Jordan joins me to discuss why hundreds of Republican figures and groups were targeted and monitored without their knowledge during the Biden administration. But first, more along the lines of America's airports. DHS remains shut down for the 39th day. TSA agents about to miss a second paycheck. And today, President Trump blamed Democrats for the mess at airports. He also said this on Truth Social, quote, "Thank you to our great ICE patriots for helping. It makes a big difference. I may call up the National Guard for more help," end quote. Earlier, the White House gave an update.
The only people that are suffering from this are the American people. And I hear that Democrats might be flying out of town tomorrow. How convenient and lovely of them that they get to go to the airport and that they'll get to go home to their families when you have families, TSA workers who are suffering. You have people across the country who are missing flights for funerals and for work commitments because of Democrat politicians on Capitol Hill.
As I noted, while TSA is not getting paid, Congress is making sure that it is getting their paychecks. Well, most of Congress. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz has asked the Senate to withhold his salary until the DHS shutdown is over. In a statement, Senator Cruz said in part, quote, "It's not right for members of Congress to be paid if the working men and women of DHS are not," end quote. As an aside, I went to artificial intelligence, to Grok, and asked, how many U.S. senators are millionaires? The response I got was that of the 100 sitting senators, at least 73 are millionaires. That's about 3/4. They all have a net worth in excess of $1 million. I asked the same question of TSA workers, and there is no record other than to say they make roughly $55,000 a year. Louisiana Republican and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And this is mostly hung up, or is hung up in the Senate, because they've got the problem with, or the issue of the filibuster. But tell me, what are the Democrats saying to you in the House? Because they have to get on airplanes too, and I bet they're going to get heckled pretty big in those lines.
Well, Greta, first, thanks for having me again. It's great to be with you. And it's disgusting and it's dangerous what Democrats are doing by shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. Let's keep in mind, we're at a heightened level of threat. We've had multiple terrorist attacks on our homeland here in the United States just in the last month. And yet Democrats want to shut down this department. We're going to bring a bill in the House yet again tomorrow. You're going to see a vote on the House floor. And what you're going to see from Democrats is a whole lot of posturing and talking. But ultimately, Greta, you're going to see Democrats vote no. They do not want to fund the Department of Homeland Security because they want chaos. They want open borders. And believe me, this is about two things. It's about defunding the police and about having open borders again, like they had under Joe Biden. And look, you just saw in Chicago a couple of days ago, another beautiful young woman murdered by an illegal who came in under Biden's open borders that Democrats want to take us back to. That's why they want to defund the entire Department of Homeland Security. They can say whatever they want about what their intentions are. They want to defund the police and shut down all enforcement because they want open borders. And America doesn't want that. It was the #1 issue that President Trump got elected on. President Trump secured the border. He fixed this problem, but we need TSA agents paid, our Coast Guard paid, and FEMA and other people at that department to be paid. They're working without pay, and it's disgraceful and dangerous, and Democrats ought to be ashamed of themselves if they had any shame, Greta.
Is it that they are hung up on the payments to ICE within the Department of Homeland Security? That's what's hanging up FEMA TSA or anybody else? Is it just ICE? And is it as a consequence of Minnesota, which has now been ended, and President Trump has moved the ICE out of Minnesota? But is that what their hang-up is?
Well, they don't really know what it is, but they're hiding behind that. And yes, they oh, gee whiz, they hate ICE and we need to get reforms at ICE. My goodness, Greta, you've covered it. President Trump's made dramatic reforms at ICE. He got rid of the Department of Homeland Security secretary, brought in Mark Wayne Mullen. He was just sworn in yesterday. They've made drastic reforms. They're putting them in body cameras on ICE agents. You're seeing dramatic reforms, and yet Democrats don't want to take yes for an answer. They don't want to acknowledge all of those changes.
Well, there are two issues, though, within ICE to me. One is, I mean, what happened in Minneapolis, but the other thing at the border, because it was quite scandalous in the last administration, is because then Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas would say that the borders were secure and to be a split screen like I have right now with you, and he'd be just fine on one side saying they're secure, and we're looking at the other side in real time, looking at people coming over in droves. I mean, it's positively insane. You know, it was almost like Baghdad Bob making us try to believe those borders were sealed. They were not. I mean, and the American people, I mean, as you notice on the last vote, people want new citizens, but the right way.
Legally. And look, Democrats lied to you back then, like you said. Secretary Mayorkas literally testified saying the border's secure while you're seeing thousands of people caravan and parade across the border every single day under Biden. We changed that. They lied back then. Today, they're saying, oh, we support TSA. And then tomorrow's going to mark the 8th time, Greta, the 8th time that Democrats in Congress have voted to deny pay to TSA agents. So on one side of their mouth, they're saying they support TSA, and yet when they pull out their voting card, they're voting to defund TSA and other law enforcement agents because they just want open borders and they want to defund the police. This is insanity. This is your new Democrat Party, though. It's not your grandfather's Democrat Party. They are insane. They are a crazy bunch of people. You saw it in the State of the Union when President Trump said, you know, these people are crazy. He says, stand up if you want secure borders and you love America, and sit down if you want illegals to come in and hurt people. And we all stood up, and every Democrat sat down because they want illegals more than they want people here legally. It's unbelievable.
Well, except for a handful of people who live in the area, like Virginia or Maryland or maybe New York, you know, all these members of Congress are probably going to get on a plane this week and go home, many of them who are here. And frankly, I would not want to be a member of Congress standing in line, because they're going to get an earful from the American people standing in those lines if they are recognized, because Americans are sick of this.
They should be, and there's no excuse for it. And look, anybody out there watching your show, Greta, there's going to be a vote on the House floor tomorrow. Watch it. Thursday, there's going to be a public record vote, straight up. Do you support and vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security, including TSA? Yes or no? 2 buttons you can press. And go look at the vote, America. Pull the vote. It's a record vote. We'll get it to you. Call the majority leader's office, Steve Scalise's office. We'll get you a copy of the vote. It's a link I can send you, and you can see who voted yes to fund TSA and who voted no to keep it shut down. And you're going to see every Democrat in that no column, and yet they'll be talking out of both sides of their mouth. But the vote is ultimately what matters. How do you vote? We're going to make everybody vote tomorrow on record. Yet again, eighth time that you'll see it in the last month, and Democrats keep voting to shut it down.
Majority Leader Steve Scalise, thank you, sir.
Always great to be with you, Greta. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Coming up, is it true Iran and the United States talking? That when the record continues.
Information. Truth. Is power. Is freedom. Is money. Is health. Is Newsmax. Millions watch it. So can you. Newsmax is real news for real people.
One tiny candle illuminates 1,000.
Awaken! A Great Awakening. Rated PG-13. So, here is a before of my stomach before Sonobello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sonobello.
I wanted the results of a tummy tuck, but not the downtime.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform.
If you want that flat stomach, you go get that flat stomach.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call or go to sonobello.com right now.
Spring showers bring the Spring Waterproof Sale at Lumber Liquidators. The absolute best selection of kid-proof, pet-proof, waterproof flooring. Over 90 varieties in stock and priced to move. Like Tranquility by Corlux Athens Oak, slashed down to 89 cents a square foot. Or Corlux Silver County Birch for $119 a square foot. The Spring Waterproof Sale now through April 7th. Shop the best selection of waterproof flooring in stores nationwide or online at lumberliquidators.com.
Healthy aging support starts here with the innovative nitric oxide science pioneered by Human, supporting your body from the heart out through circulation, blood flow, blood pressure, and energy. Results you can feel, science you can trust. Get started today at human.com.
According to reports, the Trump administration has sent a 15-point plan to Iran. The purpose of the 15 points is a proposed ceasefire plan to end the war against Iran. But here's what White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said regarding the alleged 15-point plan. She said this earlier today.
I saw a 15-point plan that was floated in the media. I would caution reporters in this room from reporting about speculative points or speculative plans from anonymous sources. The White House never confirmed that full plan. There are elements of truth to it, but some of the stories I read were not entirely factual.
Also today, the United States is deploying up to 3,000 U.S. Army paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division. They're headed to the Middle East. Meanwhile, Israelis still seeing and ducking missiles from Iran. Senior correspondent John Huddy is live in Tel Aviv, where it is 10:12 p.m. John?
Yeah, and before I get to the air sirens that went off today and missile interceptions, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is saying that there will be no negotiations with the United States, basically continuing that line from the Iranians, including Iran's parliament speaker, who is said to be the point person leading possible talks, who called possible direct talks and negotiations with the U.S., quote, fake news in a tweet or an X post 2 days ago. That said, Greta, air sirens went off once again today. We haven't heard them this evening. I hope I'm not speaking too soon. It seems like every time I say that, then we get an alert and sirens go off. But this morning, sirens went off. There were several missile interceptions, and one missile actually landed in open space in the city of Hadera. This is north of Tel Aviv, along the coastline. It's where one of Israel's massive power plants is located, with Israeli officials saying that it appears the Iranians are now targeting Israel's energy structure, along with, as we've been seeing over the last few weeks, civilian areas. On that note, Greta, Newsmax cameras last night caught cluster bombs deployed from an Iranian missile, basically fanning out, streaking across the night skyline over Tel Aviv and central Israel, ultimately causing damage and injuries in Bnei Brak. This is a religious community just outside Tel Aviv. You may remember I was there last week when a 4-kilogram, 8-pound cluster bomb landed in an apartment, destroying that apartment. Well, we once again saw the damage today when one of these cluster bombs took out an entire apartment. 9 people were injured, including a 1-year-old child. No one was killed, however, but last night's attack was one of at least 12 Iranian missile barrages between yesterday and also today targeting Israel. Newsmax also confirming with the IDF, Greta, that an Iranian missile, albeit a smaller missile, but dangerous nonetheless, carrying a 100-kilogram or 220-pound warhead, had a direct impact in a central Tel Aviv neighborhood, as we showed you, causing extensive damage to the buildings, to the surrounding buildings, but incredibly, only minor injuries. That's because Home Front Command, showing video the moment the missile hit, and that people were basically running into their bomb shelters. And another example of why people, including myself, frankly, need to get into these protective spaces when there's these incoming Iranian missile barrages. Also, in northern Israel, 1 person was killed, several others injured after Hezbollah launched another wave of large rocket attacks on the north, including today. I'm hearing reports that sirens are going off tonight as well. The IDF in turn striking Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon, Beirut, while also launching a large wave of attacks in Iran, targeting missile production facilities in Tehran and also Isfahan. Isfahan, of course, a nuclear site where the Iranians are keeping an estimated 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, enough to make several nuclear bombs. All of this, Greta, as Israel's government has given the IDF approval to call up 400,000 Army reservists as operations are expanding in southern Lebanon, and this multi-front fight continues to rage on. Greta?
John Huddy, thank you. And the unthinkable happened to Joe Abraham. He got that call no parent ever wants. His daughter was killed. It happened last year in a hit-and-run crash, and the driver, an illegal immigrant. A short time ago, Mr. Abraham testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee alongside with several other witnesses. During the hearing, the committee examined sanctuary cities and how local policies restricting cooperation with federal immigration officials impacts public safety. Today's hearing comes after last Thursday's 1:30 a.m. murder of Loyola University freshman student Sheridan Gorman. She was walking with her friends near her college campus in Chicago, and the students were out at that hour simply to see the northern lights. Authorities say Jose Medina is illegally in this country. He approached the students, took out a gun, and opened fire. Gorman was shot in the head and pronounced dead at the scene. And here are a few highlights from the hearing earlier today before the Senate committee.
We hear story after story of innocent individuals who are being harmed by criminal aliens who have been released back into the community by sanctuary jurisdictions. And many times, often, these criminals offend over and over again.
We also agreed that we should be deporting violent criminals. That's there. Where we are having a dispute is the policy implemented by ICE of mass deportation and roundups.
In my opinion, when local law enforcement is perceived as an extension of federal immigration authorities, the trust we all work to secure and maintain is eroded. As a result, immigrant communities, both documented and undocumented, are more likely to fear engagement with local law enforcement.
Katie deserved a future full of love, laughter, and life, graduating college, building a career, falling in love, and experiencing all the joys and heartbreak of adulthood. Instead, that was stolen at a red light in a street in Illinois. The man who killed her described himself in court as unable to read or write English, even Spanish. He spoke a Chi Mayan language from Guatemala. Yet somehow he possessed an Illinois driver's license.
Meanwhile, social media is now on notice, and a big one at that. Hours ago, a Los Angeles jury reached a verdict in the social media addiction trial. The defendants include Meta's Instagram and Google's YouTube. The jury found Meta liable for failure to warn about Instagram's dangers. Google was also found liable for failure to warn about YouTube's dangers. The plaintiff in this case is a 20-year-old young woman from California. In legal documents, she was referred to as Kaylee GM. She claims she began compulsively using YouTube when she was 6 years old, and then at the age of 9, she began using Instagram. Kaylee GM claims her use of the platforms worsened her depression and suicidal thoughts. Fast forward to today. The jury awarded Kaylee GM $3 million in damages from the two social media companies. The outcome of this case could influence about 1,600 other pending social media addiction cases against tech companies brought by parents, attorneys general, and school districts. It could also prompt other lawsuits to be filed. Former federal prosecutor Joseph Moreno joins me. Nice to see you, Joe.
Greta.
Well, social media's got a big problem now.
This could be their big tobacco day, because remember, this verdict comes on the heels of one just yesterday from New Mexico, where a jury there found that social media companies, including Meta, failed to protect children against sexual predators. So it's really a 1-2 punch. And in that case, it's a $375 million judgment. So you're talking about some significant liability here. $3 million might just be a rounding error in certain terms of today's trial, but what's to come in terms of punitive damages or further litigation could be a real big deal.
Well, my husband was one of the tobacco lawyers, and I remember when he came home, and said he was going to do it with about, I don't know, 60 of his friends from all over the country. No one had ever won a tobacco case because everyone had been hiding the fact that nicotine was addictive, and nobody could confront it. And then, of course, during the course of the litigation, which took a long time, finally tobacco admitted it was addictive, and now we no longer have Joe Cool, or Joe Camel rather. We don't see many people smoking anymore.
The Marlboro Man, if I recall.
But we don't see many people smoking much anymore. The advertising was part of the deal, had to end. So I mean that did have an impact. But I think this is a turning point for social media.
I have no doubt that social media engines were constructed to draw people in. I have a hard time putting my own phone down, much less children. I also have no doubt that these companies knew the dangers that addiction to social media had on children, and I have no problem seeing them liable. I will say, though, there's a pause in me as a parent. I do think there's some responsibilities on parents to govern the use of devices by their children.
But the problem is that these parents are so busy. I mean, look at the TSA. They're not even getting paid. I mean, they're running around the house, and their kids pick up the phone, or their kids have friends who have phones. I mean, it's just unrealistic. Yes, of course, they have responsibility. But when you've got these algorithms who are purposely, I mean, I look at something on the internet, I think, oh, maybe I'll buy a new camera or something. Next thing I know is like for 5 days, all I do is get a camera advertisements. So, I mean, they are actively out there fishing for the people with the algorithms. It's not just like turning on the TV and whatever is there is there. I mean, these social media companies are looking for you.
Yes, I agree. And I agree that I have no problem with these companies being held responsible because of the steps they are taking to hook people in, particularly minors. I would just say, though, and I'm a dad of 9, and I know how difficult it is to get those devices away from kids. This should not be an out for parents to say, okay, well, they've been held liable, they'll be required to put all kinds of additional protections in place, and therefore I'm still okay with letting my kids have.
I mean, it takes everybody doing it. But there's something about the algorithms. I mean, that's just not a phone dropping some kid's lap and he turns it on. The algorithm is looking for you.
Yeah,
it is.
absolutely.
Wherever you were, it's looking for. Then the same with the ads. I mean, it's much more. It's craftier than just turning it on.
And it's not just the information going to the children. It's information that it could be taken from the children in terms of their personal data, in terms of their location, their browsing preferences, so that they can hook them not just in the early stages, but as they become adults, their shopping preferences, their viewing preferences. It's got a tremendous amount of information about people starting at a young age.
To explain. And the interesting thing is $3 million was in compensatory damages today to make the whole. The next question is, how do you punish? And maybe $3 million would punish a small business, so that would be appropriate. But when you've got a mega business like Meta or like Google, the punishment, this could come in giant numbers that we've never even seen before. I mean, tobacco was, I don't know how many billions of dollars in settlement. I think we could see a giant punitive damage.
Oh, absolutely. It will be many, many multiples of that $3 million, and it will open the door. It sets a precedent. So now future plaintiffs can rely on this, and it'll be much easier for them to prove the same thing in their respective jurisdictions.
That's why, I mean, social media is going to want all these cases thrown together like one class action or multi-district, because they can't keep litigating all across the country. There's something like 1,600 pending cases. So now is the time to include them in a class action and make it easier to handle and resolve however it resolves.
They'll talk tough today, they'll appeal, but behind the scenes, they're scared.
No,
they're
they're
will
shaking
come to the
today.
table.
No, we both know that. They're shaking in their boots. Joseph Moreno, thank you.
Thanks, Greta.
Coming up, no one saw this one coming. Why a top university canceled a debate for a governor. That one, the record continues. O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Get new floors during Empire Today's gigantic 75% off sale. That's carpet, hardwood, tile, and vinyl. 75% off. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Prices keep climbing. Groceries, gas, everything.
I know, even with a new administration, fixing policies, keeping the economy in line will take time.
I'm so glad we signed up for Noble Gold Investments Value Lock program.
We tied our savings to gold. It's an asset that keeps pace with inflation. When prices go up, so does gold.
So when we need our cash, the value's still there.
Secure your savings with Noble Gold's Value Lock. Call 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Instagram teen accounts with automatic protections.
Bad news, Bulldogs. Sidelined for the season.
Limits on who can contact teens.
Ouch! How are we gonna win without you?
And content settings now inspired by 13+ movie ratings.
Hey Slater, we're gonna win this one for you, bud.
You up for this?
Instagram teen accounts with automatic protections.
One of my most frequently asked questions is, how do you get your teeth so white? And no, it's not the reflection off my white hair. It's Smile Actives. Boom, right there.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white? It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth, or you can be full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
And right now, the best part, buy one, get one free.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I drink coffee every day. Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order. Free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping. A free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings.
I think we can all agree, no matter what the occasion, when you leave the house, everyone notices a bright white smile.
Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
Gas prices just keep going up. Today, according to AAA, the national average for 1 gallon of gas is $3.98. Now that's slightly up from yesterday and up about $1 from 1 month ago. The increasing rise in gas prices stems from the Iran war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil and gas transits through the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, Iran is only allowing non-hostile ships, meaning vessels not belonging to the U.S. or Israel, to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Also news today that Iran is reportedly imposing tolls on ships. Amid all this tension on oil and gas, can some of our American allies buy American resources? Alaska Republican Senator Dan Sullivan joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir.
Hey, Greta, great to be back on the show. Thanks.
Nice to have you. All right, you've got an awful lot of oil up in the North Sea. Do you have enough oil in the North Sea, and can you get it down through the pipeline to help alleviate some of this problem?
Well, I think you're talking about Alaska's North Slope, and I know you love Alaska. You've been there a lot, but you're right. We have a ton of oil and a ton of gas. And we are ready to develop it. We have been developing it. And we are ready to not only share it with Americans, but with our allies, particularly in Asia, Greta, when it comes to natural gas and LNG. You know, we just had a lease sale last week in the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska. You might remember this is the area in the western part of our state, federal lands, very big, about the size of Indiana, set aside for oil and gas development. But when the Democrats were in power, when Biden was in power, he made a point of trying to shut that down, which of course hurt Alaska, hurt my constituents, but hurt America. And that's a big difference between where the Democrats and Republicans are. We want to produce American energy, have American energy dominance for our citizens, Americans, but for our allies as well. And the Democrats are all about shutting down. American energy, particularly in Alaska, whether it's Biden or Majority Leader or Minority Leader Schumer. So that's the big difference. And right now, I think you're seeing the critical difference it means to have American energy dominance for our own citizens and for our allies, because we're seeing the turmoil in the Middle East with regard to energy prices. It makes it more imperative than ever that we have energy independence for America.
All right, you talk about gas, LNG. Let's talk about that for a second. You need a separate pipeline to transfer that. There is no such existing pipeline. And I mean, I know there's discussion about building that pipeline, but I assume that that LNG could be shipped to Asia, and rather than having them try to get some of their energy from places that are so unfriendly to us, they would become dependent on us. Is that the thinking?
100%. You know, Alaska was the first place to export LNG anywhere in the world. We started exporting LNG from our Cook Inlet oil and gas basin to Japan in the late 1960s. For 50 years, we never missed one cargo shipment from Alaska to Japan. The best record of reliability you can imagine for our Japanese allies, and some Korean shipments as well. Greta, it's a 6 to 7 day cargo shipment from Alaska to Japan, to Korea, to Taiwan. Think about that. No Straits of Hormuz, no Straits of Malacca, a straight shot. So yes, this next LNG project that we've been working on in our great state for a long time, the Alaska LNG project, would take the North Slope gas, which we have unlimited amounts of, and not only get it to Alaskans, because we need that gas, our military needs that gas, Americans, of course, but to our allies in Asia, to Japan, to Korea, to Taiwan, Thailand. And look, there's never been a more opportune moment to finalize the building of this huge LNG project. The president and his cabinet have made this a top priority, and we've never made more progress. And I think, to your point, we are seeing the need for everybody, but our allies in particular in Asia, to diversify away from Middle East LNG to Alaska LNG. The moment is now. It's exciting. And I think you're going to see that project up and running in a couple of years. It'll be great for America. It'll be great for our Asian allies.
I think, one thing, I'm going to take the last word on this, but I'm very concerned, as I know many Alaskans are, about the environment. And I'll never forget when I went up to the North Slope, and I was expecting to hate everything about it because I didn't want to disturb those animals. I was shocked at how pristine it was and how the animals were taken care of. And completely, I mean, I never dreamed what I would see up there, because I was prepared to think that it was going to affect the environment. But so far, knock on wood, no spills, and the animals like it. So anyway, with that, I took the last word. Senator Dan Sullivan from the great state of Alaska. Thank you, sir.
Great to see you, Greta. Thanks.
Nice to see you. Okay, it's one of the most closely watched races this election season. The state of California will have an open seat for governor. That's because Governor Gavin Newsom is term limited. About a dozen candidates want to be California's next governor. If you do not live in California, you may be asking, why does this matter to me, right? Well, it matters big time to everybody who is California's governor, because California is one of the largest world economies. And it's not just America, but the largest economy in the world. California's gross domestic product exceeds $4 trillion. So whoever leads the state of California has a significant presence on the international stage and a significant impact on our nation's economic health. Last night, in a televised debate, California voters were supposed to hear from some candidates for governor. The debate was to be hosted at the University of Southern California, but that debate got aborted. Why? Well, the university was accused of omitting candidates of color from the debate stage. On your screen are the 6 candidates who were to debate. The list includes Congressman Eric Swalwell and former Congresswoman Katie Porter. There were also 2 Republicans, Steve Hilton and Sheriff Chad Bianco. The candidates not invited to debate included former HHS Secretary Javier Becerra. Now, Becerra accused the university of excluding all candidates of color from the debate. USC has denied that allegation. So how did USC choose who would have taken the debate stage? On Monday, the school said it used a combination of polling and fundraising to determine the debate stage. The university added, quote, USC vigorously defends the independence, objectivity, and integrity of USC professor Kristen Gross, whose data-driven candidate viability formula is based on extensive research and enjoys broad academic support. At the same time, we recognize that concerns about the selection criteria for tomorrow's gubernatorial debate have created a significant distraction from the issues that matter to voters, end quote. So what happened? Well, the debate was canceled. USC says it will look for other ways voters can learn about the candidates, but as you might imagine, the fallout over this debate is not yet over. Republican candidate Steve Hilton is calling for the suspension of federal funds to USC after this debate was canceled. Hilton added, quote, "What a total joke California Democrats have become," end quote. Coming up, Republicans say it's worse than Watergate. What is it? House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan joins me when the record continues.
Newsmax.
Shoots it straight. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think. Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax. Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think. They let me decide.
Real news for real people.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat? Plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered.
Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-714-4212 or visit FAHW.com.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's high-absorption magnesium glycinate helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Watergate was the biggest political scandal on the planet and arguably the biggest political scandal in American history. So what could be worse than Watergate? Republicans say Arctic frost is. That is the name of the investigation launched in 2022 by the FBI and DOJ during the Biden administration. It began as an investigation to an alleged 2020 election conspiracy to keep President Trump in office. But later, it was exposed that this investigation targeted hundreds of Republicans and groups. Targets included at least 8 Republican members of Congress. How were they targeted? Well, unbeknownst to these Republican members, their phone records were secretly subpoenaed. Yesterday, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing about this. Here's an exchange between Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee and the witness, Will Chamberlain, from the Article 3 project.
Should the president be able to direct the FBI to spy on the campaign of his political opponent?
Absolutely not.
And isn't listening to a private conversation between a presidential campaign manager and her lawyer in many ways much more serious as an abuse of government power than an attempted wiretap of the DNC headquarters in Watergate?
Correct, because there's two interests being invaded. First, it's just the wiretap generally, but then it's doubly invasive because it's supposed to be a privileged conversation.
Senator Lee was referring to Susie Wiles, who is now, of course, President Trump's chief of staff. Meanwhile, the probe into former CIA Director John Brennan is ramping up. Last night, behind closed doors, House Republicans on the Intelligence Committee voted to send classified transcripts related to Brennan to the DOJ. The Justice Department had requested these documents. The case centers around whether Brennan lied to Congress about Russia meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And
good to be with you,
as
Greta.
far as this Arctic frost investigation, what could happen? Tell me what could happen.
Well, I mean, my initial takeaway is it's always worse than we thought. It wasn't just a couple of people that they went and got the phone records for. It was pretty much everybody in D.C. who was somehow connected to the Republican Party, including a number of members of Congress itself. So we will see. We've done several referrals. We've referred Mr. Wyndham, who worked for Jack Smith. Arctic Frost then was merged into the special counsel's investigation. Mr. Wyndham was working on both of them. We referred him to the Justice Department for obstructing our investigation. We've been referred Cassidy Hutchinson, who we think lied multiple times to the January 6th committee. We referred her after we deposed Jack Smith and learned all about what was going on in his investigation, and then looked at what Cassidy Hutchinson said, and still the fact that he was looking at using her potentially as a witness if he ever got to court, which thank goodness he didn't. So we're on top of all that, but the real takeaway was it's always the one mistake we always make when we start these investigations is it's always worse than we thought. And of course, with Jack Smith and the number of phone records he got from members of Congress, a separate and equal branch of government, I think that demonstrates that principle.
I think what's most horrifying for me from all this test is the stuff about John Brennan, the former CIA director. That letter that he and 50 others, there are 51 who signed it on October 19, 2020, right before the election, where they said basically the Hunter Biden laptop was a hoax. And I can't figure out, did they do it because they're just incompetent, those 51? And if they're incompetent, boy, that says a lot that our intel community of 51 is incompetent. Or do they do it because they're diabolical? And if it's diabolical, that's bad. But it's actually, what happens to these people? This should not have signed, and even Biden referenced that in his debate with then candidate President Trump or President Trump. To me, it's so, they've all gotten away with this.
Yeah, you referenced John Brennan right before I came on. John Brennan definitely lied to us. And he lied to us when we were deposing him about the very subject you raised, Greta, the letter that 51 former intel officials signed. The reason they did it wasn't that, they just didn't know and they thought. No, it was a political operation. Antony Blinken working with Mike Morrell put this all together, and they were out to stop President Trump in the 2020 when he was running for re-election. So this was a political operation. But what Brennan lied to us about when we were talking to him about that subject was he lied to us about the dossier clear back in 2016, and specifically how he used the dossier as the basis to change the intelligence community assessment. The intelligence community assessment initially in December of 2016 said there was no conspiracy between the Russians and Trump in the election. They didn't care who won. They changed that, and they used the dossier to change it a month later and say there was this connection between Trump and Russia. Completely made it up. The intelligence didn't support it. We even have an email where one of the CIA analysts says to Mr. Brennan, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. We shouldn't use this. And Mr. Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? He wanted to get President Trump. They were out to get it. So that's what took place back then.
Which brings me back, I mean, and you could even go back further because the letter was October 19, 2020, and everybody knows everybody in this town is that the FBI in December, right before that, about 9 months earlier, already had the laptop and knew that it was legitimate, and they could have made a phone call. But,
right.
Yeah, but the thing is that this is the town of no consequence. I mean, this is our intel community, 51 of them, and especially Brennan, the former CIA director. So a referral goes over to the Justice Department. Was it just sitting there? I mean, what's going to happen?
Well,
I mean, this is not
an
insignificant matter.
I think the Justice Department is maybe moving on Mr. Brennan, particularly in the Southern District of Florida, where they've actually now subpoenaed Jim Comey's. They've subpoenaed records from Jim Comey. We've referred Mr. Brennan for lying to us about the dossier in 2016 while we were deposing him about the issue you raised in 2020, the 51 former intel officials. So we've referred him. ODNI Director Gabbard has produced material that indicates Brennan, what he was up to back in 2016, and so has Mr. Ratcliffe. So now you have the intelligence community releasing transcripts of Brennan, the ODNI Director, the CIA Director, and the Judiciary Committee all saying this guy's got major problems, and ours was an actual criminal referral. So I do believe the Justice Department is looking at all this as this big conspiracy to undermine President Trump in his very first term. It all started in 2016. This was the beginning of it, and that's part of what they're looking at, I believe, in the Southern District of Florida. So I do think Mr. Brennan may in fact, be charged. We'll have to see.
We'll see what happens. But also, you mentioned, now just the listeners, that Antony Blinken, who was part of this operation for this letter, went on to be Secretary of State, which people in this town get rewarded oftentimes when they shouldn't. Chairman Jim Jordan, thank you, sir.
You bet, Greta. Thank you.
Amid the mess at airports, one airline is rolling out a new feature. It's designed to make passengers more comfortable. United Airlines has announced the Relax Row. The row offers couch-like seating for economy passengers. The airline is removing rows of their current economy seats and transforming them into a couch with mattress pads and pillows. In a statement, United says, in part, quote, "This dedicated row of 3 seats at United Economy can transform into a lie-flat mattress-like space after takeoff, ideal for families with small children, couples, and solo travelers who want more space." United also says, quote, "Customers traveling in United Economy on long-haul flights deserve an option for more space and comfort, and this is one way we can deliver that for them," end quote. United plans to launch these Relax Rows next year. 200 planes will have them. Each of the 200 planes will have 12 Relax Rows. Each row is considered one single seat. So how much is this going to cost? United hasn't announced that. Coming up, Savannah Guthrie speaks out about her mother in her first interview. That one, the record continues.
During the Omaha Steaks Spring Savings Event, prices are going down. Save up to 50% with entrees about $5 per serving. Order now to get 8 burgers free. This spring, watch the prices fall at omahasteaks.com/TV.
This isn't just a capsule, it's a time capsule built to reverse fatigue, fragility, and aging at the cellular level, where aging starts. Long live stronger cells, long live you. Fatty 15.
Oftentimes, the old-fashioned way is still the best way. That's why Americans are choosing Texas Bullion Exchange to put pure gold in their savings. As the digital dollar declines, put those dollars into something you can hold. Call today for an expert evaluation of your holdings, and we'll send you our gold buying guide 100% free. Call today or visit gettexasgold.com.
It's spring makeover time at Cabinets to Go, now through April 7th. Bring home our newest collections. The timeless style of crisp Harbortown white, Broad Creek blue, stunningly bold and classic design, and the cozy warmth of Cotswold linen. At 0% APR for 48 months. That's a new kitchen designed to fit your style, space, and budget, interest-free for 4 years. It's the spring makeover sale now through April 7th. Only at Cabinets to Go. Designed to wow.
Kibble. It's been the standard for decades, and it's failing our dogs. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It's gently air-dried, locking in the nutrients and the flavor dogs go wild for. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
I wish I could just watch live sports at home for a great price.
Choose and customize your channel lineup, or pause and watch for free
Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 5 consecutive years. Set apart by its name alone, Corvette delivers a legacy of American craftsmanship, and a vehicle that sets the bar for performance cars deserves a buying experience that beats it. With hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide, it's no wonder Corvette enthusiasts from across the USA keep coming back to McMulkin Chevrolet.
The name's Hampton. I've come a long way from my Humpty days and have learned a thing or two about crashes and falls. That's why I invest with Willow Wealth. They make it easy to diversify my portfolio with private markets. Plus, portfolios including private markets have outperformed traditional ones for the past 20 years. Not that it's a competition. Diversify your portfolio to help rise above public market volatility and level up your game. Those who know, know. Willow Wealth.
It has been 53 agonizing days for Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie. That is how long her mother Nancy has been missing. Savannah Guthrie is now talking about her mother in a new interview.
We are in agony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We are in agony. It is unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up every night, in the middle of the night, every night. And in the darkness, I imagine her terror, and it is unthinkable, but those thoughts demand to be thought. Yeah. And I will not hide my face that she needs to come home now.
84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was reported missing on February 1st. In 7 weeks, there have been no suspects named, no new leads, and the Guthrie family is again calling on the community for help. In a new statement, the family writes, quote, "We desperately ask this community for renewed attention to our mom's case. Please consult camera footage, journal notes, text messages, observations, conversations that in retrospect may hold significance. No detail is too small," end quote. Meanwhile, this is not something you see every day. A wife testifying against her husband. Hawaii doctor anesthesiologist Gerhard Koenig is accused of beating his wife, Ariel, with a rock on March 24, 2025. It happened on the Palipuka Trail in Hawaii. Husband Gerhard Koenig has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder, attempted murder. While on the witness stand, his wife Ariel testified the hike took place on her birthday. She said she'd been working to repair their marriage. Her marriage had been suffering since 2024 when her husband found what he considered flirty WhatsApp messages between his wife and a colleague. So during the hike, and according to Ariel, her husband grabbed her forcefully, started yelling at her, and then he tried to push her back towards the cliff. Ariel said she then threw herself on the ground, and that is when, according to Ariel, her doctor husband allegedly tried to stick her with a syringe. When the syringe failed, he hit her in the face and head with a rock. While Ariel was yelling, quote, "He's trying to kill me," 2 women walked up to the couple and called 911. This allowed Ariel to crawl away as her husband fled the scene. Her husband was arrested after an hours-long manhunt. Gerhard's attorney claims he has been falsely accused of attempted murder. Gerhard's attorney went on to say that his wife, Ariel, started the fight and hit her husband with the rock first during an argument stemming from her affair. In May of 2025, Ariel filed for divorce and sought full custody of the couple's 2 children. Gerhard has been in jail since his arrest. Last month, the judge denied his motion to dismiss the indictment. Coming up, after nearly a dozen years, he finally found his way home. That one, the record continues.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us, we're different. We report the real news, no spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
Pump up the volume. Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
In 2024, the IRS flagged nearly 2 million tax returns for possible identity fraud.
Someone stole my Social Security number and filed a tax return in my name, and I'm a CPA.
Your tax forms have all the personal information needed to commit identity theft, and you're not the only one with a copy, which makes you vulnerable. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats others could miss. And if your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it, guaranteed. Enroll now.
Buying a new car? You need WeatherTech. Perhaps a nice used car? You need WeatherTech. Or maybe you're still driving Old Faithful. You need WeatherTech. No matter the age of your vehicle, American-made WeatherTech products are the solution. Because Nexus don't care what year your vehicle is. See? You do need WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection at WT.com.
I'm seeing more and more people in their 40s and even in their 30s starting to prioritize their cholesterol health. They're doing what they can with diet and exercise, but want something more. Human Cholesterol Health Daily is that something more. A multi-action formula with plant-based ingredients backed by 3 clinical studies that demonstrate real, measurable support for cholesterol and vascular health. Founded in partnership with the University of Texas, this is modern-day cholesterol support I wish more people knew about. Only human.
Parents, America's big birthday is coming up and your kids want an invite to the party. Let them join the fun with the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday, a free guide that helps kids celebrate the epic story of our nation's birth. Send your kids back in time to see our brave founding fathers signing the Declaration and get them ready for this year's massive celebration. Get the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday for free at freeusagift.com. That's freeusagift.com.
An emotional moment caught on a camera. It is the moment this family saw their dog for the first time in almost 12 years. Back in 2014, a dog napper took both of the family's dogs from their backyard. One of the dogs named Diamond was found, but the other dog named 40 Cal never came home until now. How was he found? Well, the family recently moved, but they had made sure to update their address on 40's microchip. The family thought the dog was gone, but kept the missing pet report and his microchip active. And then it happened. Over the weekend, the Animal Care and Control Team of Philadelphia found him, scanned his microchip, and brought this family back together. Thanks for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is up next. Stay with Newsmax.